Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, maybe for some, everybody. Welcome to the December 21st episode of the Security Data Operations live stream, webcast, whatever you want to call it. This is our bi-monthly stream where we talk about all things security operations, data operations, and really the convergence of the two of them in the modern day cybersecurity team. And what a way to end the year, quite honestly, with literally the most epic of battles. Like, I'm super excited for the day. I want to let y'all know we got to give Jeff a massive amount of crap when he shows up. He texts me, he's like, I'm going to come in hot. I literally am watching over here because I made a couple changes to my setup. I'm watching over here like, this dude better show up. So we got Jeff here. I'll introduce him as well as my other guest here in a little bit. But let's hit the rules really fast before I introduce my co-host for today. Rule number one, first and foremost, there is no toxicity. What does that mean? No racist, sexist, misogynistic, or otherwise toxic behavior in chat. We are streaming live across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch today. And so we do have no toxicity rules inside of chat. What does that mean? We do have moderators in chat. Make sure you give a huge round of applause to our moderators in chat. They are tirelessly supporting this stream while they're working. Don't tell their bosses that. We do have moderators in chat who make no qualms out of utilizing that ban button. However, mods are not here to stifle chat in any way whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we highly encourage chat. You can see the chats are active across all the platforms. We absolutely do love and encourage you to communicate and do community stuff with everybody inside of chat. With that being said, speaking of chat, we do have polls running for today's stream, which I'll get to here in a little bit when we talk about that. Which kind of leads us to our second rule, or more of a reminder. We do welcome questions. We absolutely love questions on stream. Our moderators are watching the question pool. They will either add them to the queue, or if there's one relevant to the conversation, they will push one up on stream, similar to this that you're seeing right here, where we can talk about it and address it with our panel of experts that we have very loosely. We do encourage questions throughout the stream instead of waiting for a dedicated Q&A at the end. That way we can have an interactive conversation of things that are particularly interesting as well. Oh, snap, there's an Inside Sources in chat. Good to see you, buddy. Also, I want to give you a heads up for something that's coming in the new year. Pay attention to this. We talk. We've been doing security data operations on this stream since May. I didn't realize that we've been doing this since May. So this is a program that we've been running now for about 6 months. It seems to be really gaining a lot of traction. Everybody seems to be really interested in the topic. And we've had our assumptions about, things that are challenging for SecOps folks, so that we can make sure that we address them live on stream. And so in January, I'm working on our first ever, survey that we've got going on. Where we're going to roll out for you all so that you can tell us, what's working on this stream, what's not working on this stream, what we can do to bring the right amount of content and data to you all on this SecDataOps stream. So stay tuned, more to come on that, but I really need you all to participate in that and working on the team to try to make sure the surveys don't suck, because I know surveys suck sometimes, but we're working on trying to make that not suck. A couple weeks ago during a Wednesday stream, my co-host, and most of you know him as Jeff from our Old Guy Wednesday, and I were lamenting about security products and their place in the market overall. We asked you during the stream, during a survey, if you would be interested in a face-off between a chief product officer with a focus on why do security products suck. You asked, we answered. I present to you our lovely panel that we have here for today. Jeff, is your mic working? Did you come?
Yeah, unfortunately, the lovely panel wasn't able to show up, so we had to come.
I'm just glad your mic worked out the gate. That's all I'm happy for.
Hey, thanks for being flexible. I knew it was going to be tight.
All good. Most of you know Jeff here. Jeff is a sales executive. He's going to be representing kind of the sales side for today's panel. I won't do too much of an introduction on him. You are meeting for the first time, and it is his first time appearance, long-time lurker on the stream. My cohort in the Query executive team, Mike Bousquet, Chief Product Officer at Query, representing the product side of the house. Mike, obviously you could talk a little bit about your history, your background. One of the things that I've been really impressed with is you've done a lot of product work at a lot of different levels for a lot of different organizations. You talk extensively about a lot of your product work at Dell and security SecureWorks and working through a lot of those challenges. And you've also been, co-founder of startups as well. What are some other notable kind of expertise that you've got in your history that kind of make you uniquely qualified to kind of talk about and represent, the product management side of this?
Geez, I don't know how unique it is, Neal. I've approached this work as what's the opportunity to help customers get their job done. Like, I think if you start from that place, you build security products that don't suck. I love the title of the cast today because I think my opinion is that nobody sets out to build a bad product, right? Like there's a guy here in Austin where I live named Ash Mora who's big in the startup community, and he's got a catchphrase like life's too short to build products that don't solve real problems, right? So I kind of use that as a mantra on every product I've ever worked on, is to like understand the customer problem and what's the opportunity we have to make it better for them.
Well, we will put that to test a little bit here. Obviously, this is set up as a little bit of a cage match. I think, it's friendly banter, so we'll set the rules here. We're all friends at the end of the day, but I have my opinion, right? So I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna argue on behalf of CISOs and the customers. I really think that the problem, is the why security, products suck. It's definitely not me. I'm the customer. I'm always right. I think it's one of you two guys, and so I'm definitely going to be sitting here representing that. And I've kind of structured today's discussion to really kind of pull out. And so, with that being said,
can I stop you there 1 second?
Oh, geez, God, here we go. We knew this was going to happen.
I feel like we're laying groundwork. And you were really, really clear about no toxicity in chat. But you had a clear demarcation between chat and the stream.
That's right. That's right.
Plenty of room for toxicity here.
That's
what I heard you say.
You know what, Jeff? Only you would hear that. Only you would make sure that you could absolutely hear that you could take a dump on anything that you wanted to on this stream.
No, I was just trying to understand what I'm supposed to expect from you.
Oh, okay. You know what to expect from me. You've been on this show before.
Yeah, I do.
Honestly, I'm worried about Mike. Mike doesn't know what to expect.
Well, I know what to expect from you. What to expect from you is a tea time that's before the sunrise.
Mike has been on the unfortunate side of a 6:30 a.m. tea time that he was not prepared for. All right. Okay, cool. We do have a lot to cover today. I'm sure you both have opinions on the matter. As you can see, this is friendly, so feel free to send this one back and forth. But I'm going to start with you, Mike, with the opening salvo, right? There's a product analytics company, UX Cam, that identified that 21% of products fail to meet customer needs, suggesting that product management may not be effectively capturing or addressing user requirements. And so my question to you to start this off, how are product teams supposed to prioritize customer feedback when balancing the need for innovation and market differentiation?
That's a great question, Neal.
I only ask great questions. I'm not sure if you're new to this or not.
I think it depends on the company and the product and how mature it is. And, the number one thing is to get out of the building and spend time with your customers and really understand what their needs are, I think, is the starting point. Another guideline I've tried to follow, I learned this from Jody Brazel, who's the founder and CEO at Firemon, is like, let the customer define the problem. Don't let the customer define the solution, which might be mildly controversial, right? Like, let them tell you what problem they need solved, but don't necessarily just go off and code exactly, put the bits and bytes exactly where they ask for them, because you got to remember that you and your engineering team are the experts in building a solution, especially your own solution. So that's always served me well. But as you get bigger, that is tough, right? You've got the need to innovate and add new features and capabilities to a product, but you've got rough edges that you need to sand off, or bugs you need to take care of, or you always run into a scenario where one customer has something really unique they need, and you're not likely to be able to leverage that across your entire customer base. So you're faced with, do I build this one thing for one large customer of ours, or any customer that you have? That's all, think of it as a gumbo. It's a bunch of ingredients that go into the mix, and you got to decide how you want to use your resources and in what order do you want to solve those
Well,
problems?
I had originally wanted to flip that response over to Jeff, but like I got to push back on you here on this one a little bit. Like, no, I'm the customer. I know exactly what it is that I want. I want you to build me faster horses. How do you make that distinction between faster horses and innovating and giving me a car?
I don't know if there's a distinction, right? Like if I need to give you what you need to get your job done, right? Hopefully I and my team have some ideas that you haven't thought of that are going to make your life better. Whether it's, do I want to investigate faster? Do I want to access more data in the realm of what we do at Query? Or if you're an endpoint control or endpoint detection product where Jeff works, like there's a million opportunities out there. You've got to listen to the aggregate of your customer community and look for the opportunities that are going to have the biggest impact across the board to help everybody be more secure.
I have to add something that's really important to what you're saying there, Mike, because, Neal, you and I have had this conversation a few times, mostly over dinner, but, I agree with you that you've got to build the product for that, but the sales team has got to be able to say no. It's not a good fit, right? And I do feel like, I was talking to someone last week about Cisco, and not picking on them here at all, but they created a sales motion back in the 90s, early 2000s, where it got really difficult to have any technology company miss on Wall Street without absolutely getting pummeled, right? And so, I think this problem, because I do say a lot of times security products suck, but not because they suck inherently, because they're not the right fit for the customer. The customer already has too many products to manage it effectively. I think I saw a survey that said 71% of customers surveyed felt that they had too many security products to effectively manage. Well, that's a problem, right? So, I know you joke, Neal, and say, well, it's all Jeff's fault or all Paul's fault or whatever. But I think it's everybody's fault, and it's bigger than just the product side, the sales side, and the customer consumer side. It's also to Wall Street and expectations that Wall Street has to sell at all cost, irrespective of whether it actually fits the use case or not. That, I think, is the bigger problem that we haven't really been talking about.
Well, so I'm not going to let you pivot away from, like, this is very typical sales tactic here for those who aren't aware. This is Jeff deflecting. You're seeing it in real time. You're seeing the sales motion attempt to deflect any responsibility. And so, no, Jeff, I'm going to pull it.
Aren't you a salesperson now too?
I'm going to pull it back on you, and I'm going to say, how often do you actually find yourself in a position where you have to sell a product that does not fully align with customer needs?
Hold on. Doesn't align with a customer's needs. Right? I think the onus is on me as a seller to become an expert in my product. Number one, I have to know it better than my engineer, which isn't going to happen, but that's my goal, right? And if I do that effectively, and I told you no, but I told you not yet, right? Which is basically no, because I knew what your expectations were. That's as close as I get to no, man. But back in the day, it wasn't the right fit for you yet. But I also put you in contact with our product team at the time, and you were pushing them a couple of different directions. They had to make a choice. Do we want to, bow down to Neal, or do we want to build a product that we can go take to more of the masses? And there was some give and take there. But yeah, I've said no to customers before, mostly in the not yet, or this doesn't do it. And I've actually told some customers, we don't do that, but this other company does a really good job of that.
And while I think you could probably stand on a pedestal, Jeff, yourself and say that you've never violated that, rule about, making sure that you align your product with a customer need, I don't think that you could say that for a majority of the sales motion that exists in the cybersecurity space. And so I pull back to my question is, how often do you think, representing the sales team that exists in the cybersecurity tools landscape, how often do you think you find yourself in a position that is not aligned with customer needs?
Well, I don't, because it's way too difficult to, honestly, it is too painful after you sell it to unwind that. And maybe I'm just old and, I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to this. But no, I work really hard at being lazy, right? But kind of what I mean by that is lazy isn't that you don't want to avoid any work. It's that you don't want to avoid bad work. There's a distinction there of if I am doing good work, I'll work my tail end off for it. And, I would way rather wait and sell something at the right time than sell something too early and then I have a pissed off customer. So it takes way too much work to get a new customer and build the trust.
So what I hear you saying, and I think that this is a great segue kind of to this next point, right? And when you talk about that motion of listening to customers, there was a Finances Online article that I researched as part of the stream to kind of prepare for it, that said that 46% of software buyers agree that active listening, and we've talked about this on stream, I know this is going to resonate with you, is the number one skill that they expect from sales professionals. However, managers rank active listening as the 7th skill that they look for in an applicant. And so we're going to see mismatch much. And so explain, what steps do sales teams take to understand those specific pain points and needs of your target customers before positioning a security product?
Well, I know I've talked about concern, impact, solution, benefit, CISB, right?
Let's talk about it again.
Day one out of college, this was my first sales training, and they burned it into our brains, and I still have it. I'm old now. That was a long time ago. But
they still used Abacus back in your day.
It was the next gen Abacus. Concern, impact, solution, benefit. What is the customer's concern? That is often I love this note here by Mr. Maz. The reality is a lot of customers don't know what they don't know. They don't know what their pain is. They often know what the effect is. They often know, well, gee, we're here on Saturday morning because we keep getting these massive alerts on Friday night. They tell you what their pain is from an experience perspective, but oftentimes they can't tell you the cause of that pain. And that's really where the active listening comes in, is fine-tuning what's the root cause of the pain that you're experiencing. And is it your pain? Is it the company's pain? Is it bigger than just you or your team? Is it a financial pain? And so active listening is coming up with not just the primary questions and writing down your answer, but there's secondary and tertiary questions that are dependent on the answers. That's what active listening is. It's having an endless supply of questions. I tell people my mom was just like, oh my gosh, stop asking questions. Why is the sky blue? All of these things when I was a kid. And I think some people are just wired to constantly ask questions. And I think if you ask better questions and then ask the secondary questions on top of that, and then the tertiary questions that are resulting from that, then you can really, I don't know what is the next word, quadrutionary? I don't know. You only get 3 questions or 3 levels. There's no fourth.
If you go fourth, you've broken the fourth plane.
Right. You've broken the English language. They said, oh, forget it. We never have 4 levels of questions. But
there's a parallel to that in the product world. At least in our team here at Clear, we call it 5 whys. You ask the first, why is that? Or you ask a question, you hear a pain, but okay, why is that? Tell me more. Yeah. And just keep digging. And it probably, Neal, you may have experienced this as a buyer of security products. I do worry sometimes that can become frustrating, but the better we can understand the whole picture behind what you're trying to get accomplished, the better we can build a solution to it.
Well, but as you explain that, as you listen to Jeff kind of explain this, I have to imagine that you've been part of organizations, Mike, where, the sales team is out there trying to figure out this ICP or the customer, the ideal customer profile, or, trying to get those questions answered. As a matter of fact, I was on the call with Dave earlier, and we were talking a little bit about this, in regard to another aspect. And so they're fed with these informations where they're supposed to go out there and they're supposed to ask these questions and they're supposed to derive to the customer's problem. They're supposed to ask these 5 whys at some point in time during the sales process. But do you believe that even though they're supposed to be doing this, that the sales team's aggressive targets and over-promising features during that process put that undue pressure on product management to deliver unrealistic solutions?
It can. I think that's probably a company culture thing from one company to the next. But you're often selling future capability, especially in an early stage company. Like
whoa. Hold on. Take a step back. You're often selling future capability. You're telling me that you're allowing the sales team to go out there and sell things that haven't been built yet.
No, I'm asking the sales team to go out there and validate for me that an idea that we have for a product feature or capability is valuable in the market, right? In our case, we would ask Dave, hey, seems like this thing we're thinking about doing is going to be a really good fit for that prospect you've been talking to. Can you get us a call with them? Or can you run it by them and shape the idea for us a little bit? That happens all the time, especially in early stage companies.
But if that's the case, then, it sounds still like the sales team, if you're asking the sales team to go out there and ask that question for you, you're giving the sales team a blank check. Jeff, I don't want to speak for you, but man, it sounds like he's giving you a blank check to go out there and promise that feature is right around the corner.
If he's going to give me a blank check, speak all you want.
But that's got to come with that rule too, right? So another good rule of thumb in product is no hard commitments without due diligence, right? Like if a customer says, hey, if you had that, that would solve my problem and I'll purchase. I can't have the person in Jeff's role say, yep, got it, and then come back and say, hey, Mike, we need this in 3 weeks and we can close this deal, when the engineering team hasn't even had a chance to unpack the issue. Like, is it even feasible yet? You've got to have an opportunity.
I always give at least
size
4.
up the technical challenge. What's that, Jeff?
I always give at least 4 weeks.
Yeah, right. Minimum 4.
For every feature, regardless of complexity.
No, but Mike, I get that. And I think there's so much competitive FUD that's out there that salespeople are constantly fighting against, that, there's no validation whether competition has some of these things or not. Some, they do. Some, might have A, B, and C, but D, E, and F were afterthoughts. And the customer bought your product initially because you had D, E, and F already there. There's so much of like, the grass is not always greener. Let's just work together, right? But I don't think we're afforded the time to get back to the issue at hand of why do security products suck? I don't know if they really suck. I think they're just misaligned to the wrong problem way too often. And you've got customers who are not willing to buy into one relationship and stick with that relationship and be able to work with the product team to move the needle for them. Like, I think I've had a few customers do that, and it's hugely valuable, not just to the product development, but to the relationship, as well as their ability to get things that truly are customized to what they need.
Well, let me step in from the customer side of this, because I don't fundamentally agree with you, Jeff. I know that comes as a shocker to you. There is a natural amount of disdain when you walk into the room, because the only thing that I know that you're interested in is closing a deal. Period, dot, end of discussion. You're going to say whatever it is that you need to say to close a deal. You already think in your mind that you have my solution, whether Mike
Neal
told
loves
you.
me, but he just won't ever let anyone know it.
Yeah. I want to defend Jeff. I actually don't think, I think most sales folks don't operate that way, or if successful ones don't. Because that's a check you're going to eventually bounce, and you might get a transaction today, but you've lost a customer for the long haul.
It feels like that on the customer end. I don't know that I agree with that defense, because it does feel like there's the sales motion I feel on the customer side is, there's all this strategy that's put into Jeff's first message that has come from a product management team or come from marketing that says, we can solve your problem, Neal. And it comes at the customer that your solution is the best and the only one that solves my problem. And I'm again, Jeff knows I'm picking on him. I'm not singling him out specifically, but the sales motion derives an assumption that you understand my problem better than I do. And I think that that's the customer side of that aggressive targeting and overpromising features that makes that motion really, really hard and makes that collaboration really, really challenging between a sales, a product, and a customer team.
Yeah, I don't think we ever try to say that we know your problem better than you. I would say we work really, really hard to be able to define it better than you have taken the time to define it yourself. So, I think this comes in with a lot of the active listening, and just, I've been doing this for, almost 40 years now. You look at walking into a brand new customer relationship and, building that initial trust. Like, you can't just dive right into a product discussion. You've got to talk about what they do, how they do it. You have to understand what's driving them, and understand what the nuances of their pain are. Like, you just have to get to that level, which sometimes seems formulaic. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it seems formulaic. Mm-hmm. And anytime there's a formula to something, you feel, oh, they just come in and they do this and then they do that. And, well, yeah, but we've all taken the sales courses that say build rapport, then build trust, and then the reality is, you hate to make it a formula, but that's just building any relationship. Name the last. You play a lot of golf. You walk up and they don't just give you the only tee time. They're going to fill the tee slots with other people, right?
Yeah.
How do you get to know the person? You don't just not talk to them for 18 holes.
You haven't played golf with me in a while. Yes, I absolutely do.
Tell me that you don't do that. You are not that person, Neal.
I am. I put in my AirPods and I ignore whatever foursome they put me into.
Ooh.
But I get your
weak sauce.
I get your analogy, but Mike, you came to the defense of Jeff there, and I thought that was interesting from a product perspective. It sounds like you value the collaboration that is required from the GTM team. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, for sure. In my opinion, software is the greatest team sport there is. You can have the greatest product in the world, and if you don't have a great sales and marketing organization, you can't get it to market. If you have a great sales and marketing organization that can go sell anything under the sun, but the product team is weak or the engineering team is weak and the product fails in the field, the company doesn't win, the customer doesn't win. So when this works the way it's supposed to, I can't imagine working and having an antagonistic relationship with the go-to-market team from the product and R&D perspective.
Do you find it, so you mentioned when this thing works, if you were to look across your career, if you were to look across your peers, I'm sure you've been at conference with them, talked to them, things like that. If you had to assign a percentage, what do you think the percentage is where this works versus where it doesn't work?
Man, I don't know if I could put a number on it. I think you could look at companies that make it from early stage founding to scale, right? And there's various levels of scale. There's your first $5 million or $10 million of revenue, and then there's $1 billion revenue companies out there. Clearly they're doing something right when you start to have hundreds and thousands of customers. I I think companies can become a victim of their own success too. Like today's hot startup that is experiencing hyperscale is the future's legacy vendor in a lot of cases, right? You get so successful that back to like capitalism is the reason we can't have nice things sometimes, right? Like you built this great business, but you've got to keep growing it because you've got investors or whoever owns the company always wants more. And sometimes products get bloated, real bloated, and they become unfocused or hard to use. I've seen that happen a lot.
So go ahead, Jeff.
They get bloated because they have to grow. Like once you get to a certain point, you are required to grow or you're being asked to move on. And so there's a challenge, I think, that's inherent in the playing field, not necessarily in the product field. The playing field forces companies to acquire other companies because it's faster than building it themselves. And they have to do that because they have to expand into other territories of technical coverage. If you don't do that, you stay stagnant and then you're going to be replaced earlier than you should have because other people are expanding into your territory.
Do you find that battlefield, Jeff, does that cause you to overreach on customer promises about product capabilities?
I think you have to fight that. The temptation is absolutely there, right? And you have to have a voice of reality. And I think this is where I think younger salespeople are at a massive disadvantage. Yeah, they've got way more energy than me, but they don't have the history of saying, "Yeah, I'm going to say BS on that one. That one, there's no way that is coming into our product and any time in the next 18 months, right?" And you can get that sense not just by that's a big stretch or other reasons. You get that feeling because it hasn't been properly defined, right? Hey, we're going to build this. Well, ready, fire, aim. What are we building towards? What are we shooting towards? You have to know the target and understand it to build that product to it. And I've just experienced a few companies where they're building to a place where it's never been vetted by the customer, to your point, Mike. And that's a really dangerous place to be. And those are the places that scare me because they're going to deliver a product. They're going to assume that any person can go out and sell it. But if it doesn't have a market, you're not going to be successful as a salesperson or as a company.
But if Mike's doing the job that he's supposed to be doing, how does that happen? Mike, if you're doing your job, how does what Jeff's talking about, how does that happen in an organization?
Oh man, there's a million ways that can happen. And Neal, you've heard us talk about the dangerous animals in product management, right?
Share it with the audience. A brief version of it. Yeah.
Something you should know about me is I don't have a lot of super original ideas. I try to grab good things and smart things from places I find them. And there's a vendor in the product management space called Product Board, and they put out this dangerous animals of product management blog. And I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the first one is the HIPPO, right? The highest paid person's opinion. So you get a bunch of leaders around the company, and everybody's got an opinion based on their own lived experience. Like I've gone deep with customers in this part of our portfolio, and maybe the CEO has talked to a different set of customers more deeply than I have. And we all come with opinions, and they're just that, they're opinions until they're validated, right? And so you get one way this goes awry is the highest paid person's opinion trumps everybody else's, and you go off and build something that nobody wants, or a few people want, right? Or you're chasing the latest, this is the last 18 months of our lives in the vendor world, right? AI. All of a sudden, if you don't have an AI story, you're dead, right? Well, to what end? Yeah, you can slap AI up on your website, but is it actually doing something that people are going to use in their job day to day? Maybe, right? So chasing the latest, whatever's buzzy in the market or buzzy in the tech space can lead you awry or astray.
Is this predominantly because you mentioned that hyper capitalism part of it? Is this something that naturally, as companies grow, they find themselves falling victim to having a multitude of these roles during that product development process?
Yeah, I think that can happen. You'll hear a lot or read a lot about sales-led cultures and product-led cultures. Like we've tried to be a product-led culture at Query, and Neal, you've heard me say this. Everyone in the company's on the product team at Query, right? Whether you're a salesperson, a marketer, an engineer, back office staff, whatever, right? Like our job, we build software. And the way we make money is by helping customers, and we make money when they buy our product, and they don't buy our product if it doesn't help them get their job done, right? So that's what I mean by everybody's on the product team. Like if somebody's got an insight that works in Query about a customer need, I want to know about it. Our team wants to know about it, so we can dig into it and incorporate it if it makes sense for people.
So I want to put a little bit finer point on like, I mean, I love Mike's kind of like collaborative approach to product management. I definitely think it's the first time I've experienced it, in such a great way at Query, but I think that we need some finger pointing, to be quite honest with you. So Jeff, I'm gonna force you to point a finger.
You're gonna point your finger at me first.
Is it fair to say, this is to you, Jeff, is it fair to say that product times often use sales as a scapegoat when the security products fail, despite shortcomings in the product itself?
It's my fault. I know it's my fault. It's always my fault. Let me walk you through the process for how products get funded, right?
Okay.
Because Mike, you're absolutely right. There's 1,000 different ways that product can, find themselves out on a really small branch, as opposed to a very strong trunk. One of the ways that companies that build products try to stay on the main trunk of the tree is, okay, sales, attach a new product desire to an opportunity. This opportunity would happen if we had this capability or this feature or this module or whatever. And I think salespeople, we're going to attach what we find important to us and our customers. But man, it's really hard to say that my opinion is exactly the same as Jim's opinion over there, who's talking to a totally different set of customers, maybe even different sized customers. And we're going to put the same feature request in. Well, it means something totally different to his customers as it does to my customers. I'm talking with large enterprise customers, and Active Directory integration, for just bad example, but like his is going to have a set of nuances that, to me, it's a minimally viable product, right? If he gets exactly what he wants on Active Directory integration, I'm going to have a product that I take to my large customers that are going to say, well, where's the hierarchy? Where's the integration with all these other things, right? So it gets really derailed really fast because you don't have the right target audience for that feature identified. You don't have it validated with them of, yeah, this would make you invaluable if you had this capability. And I think that we've just been building products in too much of a silo without, to Mike's point, getting directly with the customer and saying, all right, we've got 5 different directions we can go with this feature. Curious how you would use it. And my larger customers would say, if you do any of these 4, that's cool, but unless you do this 5th, nothing else matters. Right?
But isn't that what you're supposed to be doing on the front line with a customer, Jeff, is bringing that product feedback back to Mike? Like, that's that active listening that we talk about.
Oh, I totally agree, but that's ancillary to how I get paid in every company I've ever had. I'm just being honest with you.
Thank you for being honest. I think that's the point. No, you're not paid to listen.
No, actually, I will not get paid if I don't listen effectively, because I will not make the sale. The problem is that you're asking me to do administrative work that I don't get paid for, but I'm supposed to do. like most companies don't even know that should be a piece that I do.
Mm.
I do it personally because it builds the relationship with the product team, and like it is such a win-win. To your point, Mike, when sales and marketing and product teams work together, it's a great team sport, because like I'm coming to them with use cases and workflows, and that's something I want to make sure we come back to, because workflows is how it ties to the customer's use case.
Yep.
If I explain what the workflow would be, our buddy Tom, right? Having a conversation with him several years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, man, if you guys had app control feature in your cloud, I could have a break glass. Like, boom, we have a problem and the SOC sees it. I press this button and boom, I'm in high enforcement with app control. And then as soon as I'm out of the weeds, I can turn it back off and the business can run as, willy-nilly as it wants to run, because app control is very constrictive, right? But it's that workflow that, unless I go back and tell the product team about, that will never be built into the product. But it wasn't in that situation because it wasn't valuable enough to the business, because I was the only one that put that workflow into Salesforce.
So what you're saying is, you fight against the product team blaming sales team so that you can turn around and blame the product team, because you brought the feedback, of course, back to the product team because you care about the relationship. And so thus Mike ends up in a position where he's firefighting and getting distracted from product development strategy, is what I'm hearing you say.
I know that you really want Mike and me to duke it out. But
I know.
But Mike is not flying up to Chicago and I'm not flying to Austin. No, the reality is it's both of our issues. If it's not working right, it's because one of three things happens. I didn't communicate it correctly, maybe because I didn't understand it correctly. I'll own that. It's not something that's on a priority on Mike's radar screen. Or to be honest, it's not valuable enough to the industry to get done at all. It's a nice to have, but not valuable enough.
Well, I think that priority is the key thing that I was really trying to drive at, because and this goes back over to you, Mike, is, we've experienced this at Query. I'm sure you've experienced this at other places too, right? There are North Stars that you're moving into from a product management perspective. You're trying to guide the product in a certain direction. But I did find a statistic for this that said that product teams spend 52% of their time on unplanned firefighting. And so how are product teams supposed to balance the pressure of, Jeff coming to you with requirements, delivering the products quickly, and that need to be innovative and to be fast paced and to be agile and to be reliable and to be able to respond to that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, that's our job, right? Like one of the things that I love about working in product management is it truly sits at the center of a technology organization. Like, you've got to work with sales and marketing teams. You've got to work directly with customers. You've got to work with the engineering team to get anything built. You've got to work with the executive team to make sure it's going to work for the business, and how are you going to price it? And you've got vendors of your own, right? Most software products have other products embedded within them, and you have needs that you pass down the supply chain. So that's what makes our job interesting, but it's also what makes it hard.
And then layer on the fact that you've got a very finite group of resources that you can work with to support existing product, to prioritize new things. And like, a lot of the features just don't make that list because they're not there. There's a minimum threshold that it's got to get beyond to get on the right person's radar screen to get it assigned to a project. And there's a little bit of low hanging fruit going into this as well, I'm guessing, because if you've got a list of 10 things on your board, and number 1, 2, and 3 would require 3 months of work by your entire staff, 4 through 9 you could get done in the same amount of time. Well, maybe that's going to move the needle more than those first 3.
Yeah. Or maybe 2 out of the first 3 are great, but they're not worth anything unless the third of the 3 is there also. Like, you prioritize the wrong things. Neal, to get back to your question, the way I've always tried to manage that, you mentioned North Star. Like I think of that as who are we trying to be when we grow up? Like what are we, what stake in the ground? Like who are we, right? What are we doing? What do we do for customers? What are we equally as important? What are we not going to do? Like those are product principles. We will do this, we won't do that. And then another real effective tool in my mind is understanding the customer's problem through the lens of the outcomes that they want. So not the feature, not where the where the pixel needs to be on the screen or the button needs to be in the top left or the bottom right, but like what actual outcome do they want in their words? Like, and I love to ask the question when I get engaged in the pre-sales process, like, what does like massive success look like to you using our product? Like if we do this deal together and a year from now, we get back in a room, like, tell me what massive success feels like to you. And then just shut up, right? And you'll often hear things you didn't think you were going to hear. And so if you've kind of organized your strategy around customer outcomes, it's a lot easier to stay on track and not end up as a feature factory. So another thing you don't want to be as a software company is a feature factory where you're very sales led and it's very customer and prospect specific, and you just got this long board of features and sub features that everybody's asking for, and you're just trying to pick your way through it, and you end up with a mess of a product after a year or two. And by the way, your backlog of requests just continues to grow and grow and grow, and you never catch up with it. Like you gotta know who you're trying to be, what problems you're trying to solve, and build the things that deliver the outcomes that people that write you the checks want.
Well, so I do want to take that. I do want to send this back over to Jeff because like, I do think that you said, not being sales led, and being in those meetings and listen to the outcomes and the problems they want to solve. And Jeff, you chimed up and said that you agreed. It sounded like you agree with that, but then he brought in the not being sales led. If product is trying to make a decision about where to go with product design, and to your point, there's a buzzword that exists out there. You're trying to align with that competition. You're trying to put yourself forward. You've got to get paid in some way. There will inevitably be customer dissatisfaction in the mismatch of those messages between sales and product. And so how often do you find yourself attributing your inability to get a product sold or marketed or whatever the case to Mike's decision to prioritize a feature a different way because it doesn't match the industry buzzwords?
So people think that I go in to say 1,000 different customers, right? And I can sell to all 1,000. And all I need is Mike to just build X, Y, and Z, and then I'm golden. But that isn't the case at all, right? I'm trying to talk to as many of those 1,000 customers to vet out the ones which just aren't good fits, right?
You're talking about lead qualification.
100%, right? But if I can, if I know the direction of our product, and to your point, Mike, I 100% agree with the North Star. I disagree with a little bit of the feature, shop, because I think there needs to be a both and. And like architecturally, I would love to see an organization that says, okay, this is our North Star, but because of the way we've built our product, we can bring outside people in to custom write a few API kind of things and things that don't necessarily intrinsically damage coding of the base North Star level product, but could add additional capabilities and functionality. I kind of look at that as ancillary programming, but I don't see that a lot in the approach of the architecture. But with all that said, if I know where the direction of the company and the product is going, and I know how we can take small things and adjust them as needed with customer input, then I'm going to vet into a heat map my entire group of prospects. And I'm going to say, like, for lack of a better term, I'm going to grade them, 1 through 100. And if you're in my 90 to 100 category, I am all over you because I know I've got a solution that fits your needs. And some of that's going to be based on what industry you're in. You look at oil and natural gas. Well, they've got some unique requirements. You look at utilities, and especially anything that's got federal regulatory requirements that go along with it. You go to some of those and say, I've got a unique value prop that I know fits what you need to solve that key problem over there. I might not be, all things to all people for the rest of your organization, but I can handle that use case, and that's my beachhead. There are some absolutely a ton of customers where I just have a small portion of their footprint, and that's okay because it's the right use case. But that's how I think good salespeople go to market, with an understanding of their product and an understanding of their territory in a prioritized view that matches their product to the right customers. And then that's who they go sell to.
Is this how you say that you've never dealt with customer dissatisfaction in your sales cycle?
Best laid plans, Neal.
Right.
Mike,
no, but
go ahead.
At the end of the day, if I go to market with, being able to pass the red face test that I did my best, and I didn't do anything unethical, I didn't lie about what we're doing, I can stand by that. Right.
Right.
We're not going to be perfect. We're software, for crying out loud. But the reality is, if I go to market with that approach, I think customers generally can buy off on working with you through those issues. And at the end of the day, when you have to separate ways, there's no hard feelings. I'm still really good friends with a lot of the people that are no longer my customers.
Let's not use the F word too
I wasn't talking about you.
Speaking of parting,
why would you think I'm talking about you, Neal?
Speaking of parting ways, and I do want to throw this one on Mike, because I think he's the one who Mike, I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years. You're very passionate about what you do in product. You take a lot of it very seriously, and I applaud you for that. And so I want to throw this last one. This is going to be for both of you, but I want to start with you, Mike, because as Jeff mentioned, at some point in time, you may end up having to choose to part ways with a customer. And so if a customer churns specifically due to dissatisfaction with the product that you're in charge of, do you see this as a failure of the product team, the sales team, or both?
Both, with a qualifier. So most companies will have in addition to a sales team, which is usually an account executive, sales engineer, pre-sales group, but also post-sales, so customer success, right? I would add that group into the mix too, and product and pre and post-sales teams need to be working together to understand what their existing customers need and working to prioritize or not the features that are going to help that customer be successful with the product. Right, so it shouldn't surprise somebody. The system has failed if you get to the renewal and the customer doesn't renew, and the first time you're hearing about the reason they're not going to renew is in the last 30 days before the renewal is up. That's problematic.
Jeff, how about you? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's any sale is a relationship, and you've got to think about things from your customer's perspective as much as you possibly can. And if you have to part ways, we've done it actually with people that we're both close to. You go up and you take them out to lunch and you say, I've really appreciated your business. I appreciate our friendship, and I'm here for you if you ever need anything. And it doesn't have to be professional. It can be personal. Let me know.
I can't imagine breaking up with you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure to not have ever been on the receiving end of a breakup from you. We did have a couple questions that I do want to hit before we wrap this one up a little bit. XX Ruzi says, how do you find customers that would be good use for your product? Jeff, how would you go about, let's start with the sales side first.
No, 100%. It's getting to know the product managers really, really well and understand what your product does fantastic, right? And I come in as a salesperson to an existing product. I'm not generating something from scratch on a whiteboard. So I have to know the product really, really well and their use cases. And then I look for those kinds of use cases in certain customers. I mentioned before, regulated environments that might have air gap as a requirement. Well, I know I can't deliver it as a cloud solution. So like, I need an on-prem solution. Does my product have that? Yes or no? If yes, then you're my prospect. If no, then I move on to the next and see if I can find a good fit. That's how I attack it.
How about you, Mike? How would you go about finding customers that'd be a good use for your product?
Yeah, my answer will be shaded by the last decade of my professional career, which was all startups. It's probably a little different in large organizations, but I like to focus on the problems that we think exist in the world and talk about, like, nail the problem, right? And go talk about the problems your product is attempting to address. And if you'll find something out by doing that, right? Like, if people are drawn to you and they want to take meetings with you and they want to learn more, that means you're probably onto something, or at least you're onto some real pain in the market. When we founded Groove ID, that first 30 days, we hated PowerPoint. Neal, you know my
yes. Yes.
So we had like 3 Google slides that we would just run around the country with, and before we wrote the first line of code, we were like, this is what we think the problem is, this is what we think the solution is, like, react to that for me, before we built anything.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Do you have any problems? Like, the first question to get answered. If you're talking about problems people have, they're probably going to want to keep talking to you. And if you're talking about stuff that's not interesting to anybody, that's not your customer.
And I think the answer to this question, Neal, depends on if you're an emerging product company, or if you're a pretty well developed company that's been around for a while and you're tweaking something that's already in place. It's a very different answer how you attack this question.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like having both of you on, so that we can get both different perspectives on it.
There's a follow-on in there in the chat that's just a couple of related questions. Like, is it mainly an online effort to promote the solution or reaching out directly? In my case, it's both. Like, I try to incorporate the messaging, the problem and solution, into our messaging, so it goes on the website and you'll get some inbound if that resonates with people. But it's also just starting with your own network, right? People you've sold to or worked with before, if you're working on something new, and go have a few conversations and ask them for referrals to their peers. And so in my case, it's been both, like, online marketing as well as direct, outreach to my network.
But don't you worry about, just since we're pulling on that thread just a little bit, and I'm being cognizant of time, don't you worry about oversaturating your network with, like, hey, can you look at this? Hey, can you look at this? How do you combat that?
I try to be a good networker, which means give as much as you take, right? Or give as much as you ask.
Yeah.
So if you see something on LinkedIn and you think you can help somebody out, like, go out of your way and help them out. Or if somebody's looking for a new job and you've got contacts that are looking to hire people with their profile, like, make that introduction. Don't wait till you need something from somebody to do something for them.
Good response indeed. One from Frazier. I think this goes back to the active listening. Frazier wants to know, how do you guys use empathetic listening for the first contact with a customer? Mike, I'll start with you because you do a lot of discovery and product management.
Yeah, it's I've done thousands of those meetings. I think sometimes it's just a human nature thing, and you either connect or don't connect with somebody. And if you're sensing you're not connecting and you've tried 2 or 3 angles, like, don't waste their time, move on. But if you are connecting, I go to that 5 whys again, like, well, tell me more about that. That sounds painful, or that sounds like a huge opportunity for your team. What would that mean in terms of your personal success, your team's success, your company's success? Like, try to put yourself in their shoes as much as you can. Live in the shoes of your user. Try to imagine. You're not doing their job, but you can make an effort to try to imagine what their day-to-day battles are, and really try to feel it, feel the feels, right? Feel what they're feeling.
How about you, Jeff? Do you find that being empathetic to customers inhibits your ability to close a deal or to make a paycheck?
No, it's exactly the opposite. No, your point about that, Mike, is spot on. I think you need to understand their pain as best you can, and try to put yourself into their situation as much as you can. The empathetic listening tends to move right back to empathetic communication, where he's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, if I was in that situation, I'd probably react this way." Like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how I'd react."
Yeah.
But you've got to mentally put yourself in their shoes to truly empathize with them, in my opinion.
All right, gentlemen, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you both very, very much, so very much for participating in this. I appreciate you guys, coming in and bantering back and forth over this topic. I've obviously enjoyed working with both of you over the years, and hopefully it was friendly across the board. Either of you have any closing remarks for the community, for the audience before we send you along your way?
If you're a customer, work with your product teams and sales teams, because we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, I was just thanks for having us on, Neal. I'm sorry it wasn't a cage match. I came in thinking it's not going to be a cage match because I don't think that's the way it should work. But I guess for the audience, you plugged a survey we're going to do. We in product management and sales, go-to-market teams, live on understand, like the lifeblood of what we do to make a living is understanding our customers and our users. So I would encourage anyone, I know you have a lot of security operators in your community. I don't think that the vendor operator relationship needs to be antagonistic. Like it should be really collaborative. We all win when we work more closely with each other and try to understand each other's day-to-day better. So I'm always down to try to help somebody, and I learn something from everyone I talk to. So I guess my point is don't hesitate to reach out if something we said today resonated or you want to hear more or talk more about it.
Absolutely. Thanks, gentlemen. I'm going to send you off to the green room. I know you guys got work to do, and I'm going to talk to the audience really fast. That was awesome. As always, I wanted to bring this to you. I think the one thing that I'll leave you with before we sign off for the evening is I know we joked about this being a cage match, and we, Jeff and I make a lot of jokes about, some of the antagonistic between who's to blame for security products. I think what I wanted to highlight for you in between all the comedy, right, is it's really hard. And I think BSEC said this at the beginning of the stream. I'm not sure if BSEC is still around or not. It's neither fault. They're trying to do what it is that they can do. Security products are really hard to build to solve problems, especially at scale, especially with a lot of different factors involved. And so, there's a lot of factors that are involved in the security software space, in security products. There's a lot of ways that we see security products not working the way they want, whether you've got a customer that's got too many of them and doesn't understand how they need to implement, poor security strategy, mismatched alignment between customers and product development and sales team. All of those things play a part. So before you, even myself included, before you just jump down, saying X product sucks or X product is awesome, remember there's a lot of things that go involved in that. Do your part. Be a partner to the sales and marketing team. Be a partner to the product development team. Put your influence on making security products better, and we'll have a better industry. So with that being said, I'll be streaming tomorrow morning with T the Hacker. Make sure you tune into that, 8:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, make sure you tune in on all the socials, hit the !point Discord and chat. And whether you're on the red side or the blue side or still deciding, keep learning. We'll see you next time.